I'd like to talk about beginnings and endings. I'd like to talk about my dad and the temple in Jerusalem. On Friday just past, it was the 2nd anniversary of my father's death. We had a complicated relationship. Growing up after their divorce, I hadn't seen my father for some 38 years. Only seeing him again in August 2019, before his death on the 26th of November. I'm grateful for the short time we had. A reconciliation, putting an end to anger and bitterness and fear. We shared conversations about prayer, the soul, God, poetry, spirituality, healing, and the cancer which eventually killed him. His death brought an end to those conversations that I so enjoyed, and the future hope of many more. His death also gave birth to a beginning for me. The story I had told myself about so much hurt, was now bookended by reconciliation, by peace, and even by love. But it was an end. And in its wake, grief was born. And for me, grief is the pain of loss. And in fact, grief is an important soul friend. For this faithful companion keeps us rooted in our life and in the life of the one we loved. Grief is a soulful work. It keeps us awake, alert to life and where we are. Not only have we lost and had to let go, we have also loved. And the pain of such loss reveals the depth of our love and connection. This soul friend eventually stops us from numbing ourselves to life. It stops us from putting our emotional and spiritual life in a freezer. Loss reminds us we are alive. Endings and beginnings. And so now I'd like to turn to Jerusalem and the temple. The destruction of the Jewish temple most probably happened before Luke's Gospel, as well as the Jewish war before Luke's Gospel was written. And Jesus' words of the temple no longer standing are placed upon his lips as though he were foretelling the future. Now, the loss of the temple wounded the Jewish imagination. The loss dislocated a people's sense of connection to God, asking themselves, where is God now to be found if not in the temple? Where should we go for healing, for forgiveness, for redemption? And so today we hear Jesus speaking into that difficult place. And you know that place in your life, where you have experienced unknowing. When at times you might have felt a lack of security and certainty, where we have felt a loss, feeling uprooted. And yet it is a place, that arena of grief, of loss, of death, of change, where Jesus recognizes healing is to be born. For salvation is healing. And our healing is profoundly connected to our ability to be present, to be awake, to be alert, to be rooted in my life. And that's the call of Advent. Advent is a soulful alarm clock, beckoning us to be awake. Imagine now an oak tree. When you see an oak tree, you're looking at a life that burrows its roots deeply into the earth. Now, when we remember that the earth, the soil, the mud is in fact everything that has decomposed and died, we are presented with an image of death feeding life. The roots of the oak tree are fed by all that has died. They are immersed in all that has been. Death feeds life. But in order to be nourished, we need to be present, to be rooted in life. We need to have our heads raised high, our eyes firmly fixed on that light that is born in darkness. Being connected to our lives is essential for our well-being. Spiritual growth is born from how connected, how rooted we are in our lives. For ultimately, the level of contact you have with yourself is the level of contact you will have with God. The level of contact you have with yourself is the level of contact you will have with another person. The way I am able to love myself is the way I will be able to love another. The way I can forgive myself is the way I will be able to forgive another. Is the way I will be able to have an amount of empathy and compassion for another's pain. Being awake is intrinsically linked to being healed, to being saved now. As a benefit, the way we welcome each other from different parishes is the way we welcome God, is the way we embrace life. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. And so, beginnings and endings. Death feeding life. Pain rooting us in love. This is our Advent.